So we were with Courtney Gilfillan, who won our BTU 30. And because she's such a weapon, of course, she's just jumped out of the pool and still wet. And then, of course, she's an athlete. Therefore, she had to do the grocery shopping on the way here. So she got it for the afternoon. But thank you so much for fitting us into your busy schedule.
My pleasure. Nice to be on and chatting to you.
I know we've shared lots of giggles even before and previously, and it never ceases to amaze me how readily trail runners or athletes or even PTs can connect, because they're usually people, right? So you're a PT and a running coach.
Yeah, that's correct, and health and wellness coach as well. So it all combines.
Yeah, and I think because you spend so much time with people and you spend so much time in like a positive atmosphere, it just is infectious and rubs off.
Yeah, it definitely, you get a lot of inspiration. I draw a lot of inspiration from my clients. They really inspire me when they're ticking their fitness goals and meeting events. So yeah, it's nice. I get a lot of good energy from that.
So we know that you're a coach, a running coach and a PT, but more importantly, people may not know that you have been a bit of a weapon for I think it's over a decade, right? Because you used to race track, and when I was having a look at your stats way back, okay, but you raced track for a long time. You've got a sub 60-second 400 meters, so your best is 58 seconds and 0.92, which is amazing. And then you've got like a 118 half marathon. You've got steeplechase 3,000 meters, which is 10 minutes 29. I was having a look, and quite often you weren't actually ranked worse than top 10 nationally, and if it was in the state, you were always pretty much you up there, podium 1, 2. So that's pretty impressive. So what was
a bit different from 30K? Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's the whole point, right? We all started somewhere. So were you an absolute weapon in school?
So yeah, I had my first sort of Australian champs at the age of 10, 800 meters. Just naturally just grew up running and run around the property and just out in nature, and just absolutely fell in love with it, and just sort of naturally developed and started to do track and field pretty seriously and got some really good results. And 400 and 800 was my pet events. And then I actually, in my mid-teens, took 400-meter hurdling quite seriously, which was awesome. And I basically, obviously through school, we get the chance to do cross-country athletics. And then there was triathlon, which popped into it. And just sort of, that's where the next decade of that started at about 18. So I chose triathlon and more endurance sport than the track, and would go to more 5, 10Ks then at that stage. So
but for you I remember I ran 800 meters, but not nearly as well as you ran 800 meters or 400 meters. But from my experience with the 800 meters or 15s, it was it's just lactic acid threshold training. And obviously you must have an amazing VO2 max. Was that something that you worked on particularly when you were younger, or was it just you out on the farm? You just said that you grew up on a property. Was it just you on the farm, out you go running around?
So I guess young years, sort of that 10 to 12 or 8 to 12, when you just, you put your runners on, you love to go run around. I wouldn't be running any more than 2 or 3 kilometers. But as I developed about 13, 14, on the Gold Coast, I was competing in Brisbane on the Gold Coast in competition, sort of a couple of times a month on Friday evenings. So you'd be school and then competition. Our training regime was the VO2 work, a lot of shorter interval work. So I really learned how to hurt during running, and it's completely different to even middle distance has really become now, and it was starting to become then there's a lot more speed involved. Times have gotten quicker. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of hard track sessions. That was the main focus, and sort of easy, very easy, low heart rate runs between those efforts on the track.
So it's like Vomit City, or you basically you've trained yourself how to get rid of that lactic acid, right?
Yeah, buffering. Basically, yeah, you've got to keep it in check. There was a lot of wobbly legs. A lot of sort of Tuesday, Thursday afternoons at Griffith University track on the Gold Coast. Had a great squad we ran with, and we all felt the same. There was a few spews among a bunch of people, but I tended to hold on pretty good with that. Yeah, it's not very ladylike, but yeah.
But that translates perfectly, I guess, when you are doing that hill training, right? So, yeah. So if you're doing short, fast interval training and then you've got your hills, yeah, they can turn into spew sessions as well.
They can, I think. So hill sessions would be quite short and fast, like a lot of, like, say 30. As I got older and I was racing very seriously, it'd be like 30, 100 meters with float downs, and the heart rate was high and it hurt. And short, sharp hills, so really working on that acceleration and that power. And these days, converting to longer distance, basically the simple approach is the hills get longer and your heart rate stays under control. So obviously going flat out on, say, a 400-meter hill repeat, if you're running a longer distance, then the heart rate's got to stay in check. So that was a big change, and I'm pretty used to it now. But I do miss that hurting feeling sometimes of those short, fast, explosive efforts. And it's why I love the start of a race. I get a bit excited still, and you can know as a coach not to do something, but we all get carried away still.
I was so known. I led from the front. Do you know what I mean? It's I always knew where I was, and that's the advantage of it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you get that adrenaline, the nerves out, and then you just tell yourself to slow down.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good, the adrenaline rush is pretty exciting at the start of a race when you're feeling that, and then it's just being comfortable knowing you've done the training and allowing that heart rate to sort of drop and settle into the race. And being long course racing these days, you've really got to keep that in check early on.
So how did you make the transition from track to triathlon? Like, in other words, were you already naturally gifted in the pool as well? Like, as a kid, were you already in the pool swimming and then on a bike? So how did you make that transition to triathlon?
Yeah, so basically I'd always swim trained growing up. I would do pretty much all the school sports, but I was actually, breaststroke was my specialty. So freestyle was actually my worst stroke if you have to choose one. So then basically I'd go to swim squad a couple of times a week. And then there was actually a period in my running career where I just focused on a bit more swimming for a year, where I was doing sort of national breaststroke and medley. So there's been a lot of that where I have had time in the pool, but nothing like elite swimmers did. So I was lucky to grow up in the pool in that way. And then basically my mother did triathlon, so I got to watch her do them. So I was like, oh, what's this for? And I was like, oh, sort of started to be suggested to me that I'm such an all-round athlete that triathlon would actually really suit me. So I started to delve in a little bit in school sport and had some really good races there and started to really enjoy it. And it was sort of at that point I won the Australian Champs and I won World Juniors in Vancouver, and then World Olympic distance on the Gold Coast. And I said, oh, I'm going to go professional at this. And that's when I really made the switch. Then the biggest thing for me was the love for just long running, going out for long runs and being able to then go for long rides, and that feeling of just long days out training. I struggled a little bit as my career in track went on, where we were doing hard explosive efforts, yet the recovery was very long. So there was time to put pants on, have a chat, where my brain just wasn't wired to sort of want to do that. Yet I still loved it. So it naturally transitioned. And I started to race 5Ks on the track. So I do state champs 5K, because triathlon was obviously 10K off the bike or 5K, with the ITU system, Australian triathlon system, which I was in for years. And then basically a natural transition is the long course from the short course racing. So as I got a bit older as a female, I started to feel strong enough and ready enough to do my first half Ironman, which then led to racing some halves and some longer racing. So yeah, it's been a really nice transition. It was the hardest choice was probably leaving the short course racing to go to long course for me, because I felt like my time there wasn't done. But unfortunately life had happened and those years had got away from me. So I sort of made the choice based on what felt, where I was as an athlete as well. And the halves looking to really suit me, because I was just loving the long distance running. So, which always was done on trails, which I advise highly for injury prevention, running on trails.
Yeah.
So something, as well as the love of it and for the mind.
Well, like you actually won like Foster Tuncurry 70.3. Like that's pretty impressive. That's like, that's like the mecca of like the whole of New South Wales, the whole of Australia descends on that part of the world for that weekend. So the competition would have been really tough. So how good, or what was that race like for you? Did you bottle, like, do you go, okay, that was a perfect race, I'm bottling that, or how would you sum up that race for yourself?
Yeah, so funny you mentioned Foster. It's quite special to me, that race, as it was I'd only done one previous, or two, I can't clearly remember, 70.3s before that. And I just really started to transition over. So there wasn't a lot of expectation on me, and I didn't put a lot of pressure on me in regards to the end result, but I most certainly was very driven to want to be on the podium in that race, and felt really fit going into it. And it was actually Gina Crawford that day, who was top Hawaii. She's now retired. Is actually the female I beat that day. So for me, it was quite a career-breaking race early on in my long course, just touching on long course racing. And I was just sort of experimenting with, the coaching side, what a coach for that half would look like. And I was a little bit lost for direction, what was out there in long course, because I really didn't know anything about it. It's like a different sport to short course. So that race was really amazing. Mum came down with me. We drove down, and I was just really focused and in a really good place to be transitioning over at that point. It was 2015. So it was, it's a pretty special race, and it's the heart of long course racing there in Foster. So the crowds was amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Look, I'm from Sydney originally, and everyone, if they were doing half Ironman, they were going up there. So I looked at that result, and I know that you would have been up against the best. Like, no one gives up that race easily.
Yeah, no, they don't. I had a really good swim that day, so I was a minute off Gina up the front, but just rode. I think just being I grew up riding hills, and I was strong that day. I hadn't done a lot of specific work yet, but I would always go out riding hills, and one of the biggest things with cycling, as it is with running, is hill work, just being strong, so that really complimented me that day, and it was really nice feeling that day.
The swim at the start, is it your strategy to try not to get run over or swum over by the other women and have your swimsuit ripped and all the rest of it? Or was it because you're already out the front, was it all very orderly, or is it every woman for themselves out the front there?
Yeah, so I've definitely experienced that. Hardest of all over in Europe in the short course racing, when the fields are packed. I've had some pretty good dunks and hits to the eye, and no one means to. You're just trying to get clean water. But in regards to the long course, it depends on the race, who's in it. If you've got the strong swimmer bikers, and you tend to still get knocked around a bit. It also sometimes depends who's trying to block your way. Yeah, there's a bit of that goes on. So yeah, you just really try to get clean water. And some races, like in the World Series of it, there's like the top girls at the moment, that are ranked in the world, and they're the pack that are getting clean water pretty quick. And all you really just want to do is jump on that sort of end of that pack, or that second pack is sort of where I sit. So yeah, it's really become about the swims increase. Like the girls are swimming really fast around the world, and it's really important to get a really good swim in. And depending on the sort of the hierarchy of the race here in Australia or overseas, if you're a strong biker runner, you really can make up that time too. So obviously panicking is not the right strategy, and we work a lot on that. If the swim hasn't went to plan, we have got a bit beaten up and we've lost those feet, or that pack, whilst we're not allowed to draft, being a few minutes off, like say the top girls, it really, and you're sort of in that backpack, but you want to be right up there, you're sort of racing in a different scenario to the girls up the front, who have that still sometimes 12-meter benefit or 20 meters pacing, so you feel a lot more in the race. So there's a lot of mind work going on out there, and the sooner you can recover from being hit in a swim, the better you're going to be off. You can really relax on that bike, keep the heart rate in check, eat well for the nutrition for the half marathon or the marathon off the bike. So, and I basically convert that over to long distance running, that, mental strength that I've gained from the long course racing. And even the pain I feel from the short course racing, I think those little steep climbs or the long climbs, I actually love them so much.
That was exactly one of my questions for you, was because, I've raced a little bit, so I know how bloody tough it is to do well at those races. I know how disciplined you have to be in all three bike, swim and run. I used to lose 20 minutes to the front swimmer and get on the back of the pack, and there's no way I can make up that time. But I used to use it as a really cool way of not being the best and not being out the front, and having to deal with exactly what you're saying, is not being in the right position for me and feeling uncomfortable and forcing myself into that situation. So I knew that you must have gained some incredible mental toughness from doing those races and potentially not being where you wanted to be. Yeah, they've turned into my favorite races because they've taught me a lot. So even the tears we've had after races or during, really reflection's a really important thing I've learnt now, later on in my career, to really reflect on what was that negative, that it can be a positive moving forward out of that race. And that strength that you gain from the struggle is ultimately then your ticket to success in those further races, if you can really manage the mind and learn to take things in your stride. And okay, that's occurred, we're here now, we've had a bad swim or we've had a bad start to the race, we're not on feeling it today, learning to relax, learning to be present in that moment with what you're being given. And that's why we train, isn't it? So to teach the body and the mind different scenarios. Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, it's like it in a nutshell. And so then of course, you already touched on it to say, look, all that hardship I went through in triathlon, I just then take that across to trail running. And if I'm not in the right position where I need to be in a race, hey, I've already dealt with this before, like racing at a high level. But before I go to trail running, I have to ask the question, what did it feel like to wear that super hot Australian swimsuit and to be really representing Australia? Because it is so iconic to have that Australian triathlon swimsuit on. Like, what was that like to be able to wear that?
It was really special.
Yeah.
obviously my dream was to compete at the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games in sort of that Olympic distance sport, but life happened, and that dream sort of wasn't timing right at the time. But it was definitely wearing the green and gold has always been very special to me, and with that, sort of that Olympic dream behind me, and obviously representing Australia at the World Cups and those races as I grew up through my 20s, it was absolutely fantastic to feel that. And then we also did World Duathlon in it, so yeah, it's really special. Obviously in long course now, it's things, we've got the kits where they're branded and you put the sponsors, so for me it's actually not the same. It's like that green and gold really is special to me. So
then, like, so we're chatting, like, you're a hammer athlete, so it was really funny. David from Hammer was like, oh, I've got Courtney, she wants to race your event. I was like, who the hell's Courtney? And then like I've then since researched you and just gone, holy cow. So when I saw you like rock up, number one, and then secondly, I saw the time that you did, pretty impressive. But how did you approach, like, I think you entered 3 weeks before my event, so our event. So how did you approach any training difference for BTU? Tell me how you went about it.
Yeah, so I really started to do a lot more trail work and hill work this last year, and especially this last 6 months in my training. And I've been focusing on some other things in life, which has allowed me to run more. So I've been lucky I haven't had to be on the bike for the amount of time that it takes. So I've been able to experience adventures with running and trail running. So through that, basically, so Jack Gill, my partner. So
of course.
Yes. Yeah. And Lee McKenzie, who I started trail running with a bit more and showing me around all the trails. I just really found just really found this new love and passion more and more for trails than I've thought was possible. So I've really been doing some training runs with them, and now at least once a week, me and Jack and I will do a session together, and then Jack's pulling me along on his sessions. So that went before that. So I got some really good long runs in. I've been climbing more hills than I have.
Yeah, I've noticed you on Instagram and Facebook doing your training reps with Jack and Liam, and those two guys are pretty handy. Like Liam's potentially always a podium, and Jack's always up there too. So training with that caliber of athletes, like especially you being a female, I'm sure that must improve you, just draw you up. For like 34 kilometers, I noticed like you were, say, like less than half an hour behind Ben Duffus and the boys, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think definitely I'm very lucky to have them to train with. And it's been a really great change in my training to have those boys to train with. And it definitely pulls you along. And the positivity from both of them and their ambitions, with their training and their focus and their absolute love for the same sort of lifestyle as well, it's really been good for me. And it definitely helped me leading into that race. At BTU, I was able to really sustain the pace throughout. It's my longest actual trail run I've ever done, and near to closest my longest running race I've actually done. So besides the marathon off the bike and the Ironman. So I was a little nervous about maybe pushing the pace a little bit hard too early, that I wouldn't be able to hold it later on. But yeah, those long runs really paid off and came through. So yeah, I'm excited to watch that develop.
Yeah, because you won our Wild Earth Kokoda climb. I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah. So you're up there, like the infamous Kokoda climb that we just added in this year. And I know that Wild Earth support you guys as well, which looks like bloody amazing. They're our amazing sponsors, so it's like really easy for us to look after you in that regard. But that course, to do it in that time, to do it in under under 6-minute Ks for that whole thing. It's pretty impressive, especially because it's got 1,300 meters of climbing in it and 34 kilometers in 3 hours and 2 minutes. I think you did it in.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, you did 3 hours 2 minutes. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
really cool to watch, and you beat Shona Stephenson, who is also quite an accomplished road marathon runner, half marathon runner. So yeah, it was in a hot field.
Yeah, it was great to have her there too. She was quite a good battle for first, going out together, and the pace was on early with those girls. So I really enjoyed that. So it was really nice to have them. And yeah, she's an amazing little runner, and I think developed really nicely through the ranks. Yeah, so that was really nice, and then to have a chat with her, and so yeah, it was good. So yeah, Jack didn't have the best race there that day, so I think he'll be out to beat me by more next time.
I think afterwards, I saw on socials that he looked a bit sick. He said he was recovering from a flu or something. There was a lot of flu going around, a lot of potential COVID going around too. So
he wasn't right. Yeah,
I'm sure you looked at him and went, "Don't come near me."
Yeah. It's sort of one of those things, your body, and I've experienced that a lot in racing. You can sometimes be like, yeah, I'm going to feel okay and I'm feeling good, and it can be a really fantastic race. And sometimes because you rested a little bit more off being unwell, but there's sort of one of those days where your body, your mind's turned up, but your body just hasn't for you. Yeah. And it's the things we can't control. So it's just learning to say, hey, get to the finish still, and as he did, he definitely was happy to see me come through. I think that took it away from his bad day, but the message in that is that we all have them. We all have tough days, and it's still part of embracing the experience, and getting out there and the challenge, which he loved too still. So, and we loved being there together, so it was great. Yeah.
It's actually really nice to watch you both. Like, sometimes it's hard to have a partner out there, right, with you. And if you're racing each other, and if someone's not feeling well, then the other one might just want to pull out, and then you both want to pull out together, or you might drop back and help them out. But it's good that he was able to stay in front of you, number one, right? Yeah, you still had to chase him down.
I think that's what got him to the finish still, to be honest.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get chick today, right?
Yeah. No, he's a tough cookie. He finished it off. So it's never easy racing. Like, those boys are absolutely fantastic to race, and when you're off just that little bit, you can really feel it when the pace is on. So
especially in that 30K, like, there's that distance. You don't have, like, in 100K, you might have a little bit of time. If you've had a bad section, you have some time to make it up. But in a 30K race, you don't have any margin for error. 10K is even worse. So, like, you've got to work, especially if you've got someone like Elena, you're chasing you down. Like, Ben Duffus was out there. There was who else was there? Ben Duffus. It was a crazy lineup, and
it was a really good lineup. Yeah.
But what did you tell me? What you liked the most about BTU 30?
I just really loved I love the challenge of it, and I loved the majority of it being all around the trails, and seeing the city lights was pretty cool. I'm no good though. I'm better at delegating my way in the bush than I am out in the city. So I've got to work on that one. So just the minute there's more things to look at, I get easily distracted, and I think that's also part of being fatigued at the end of a race. So running across the bridge was pretty cool. I did love that. So I was like, I need my fast shoes on. Now we're on the road, we're on the back of the footpath.
Yeah, we have some great footage of you legging it across the bridge, like awesome footage. So you were live coming in. It was really lovely to watch.
Yeah, I've seen some snippets of it. So but yeah, it was pretty cool. The cameraman, he was doing pretty well, and was like, should put my foot down now here. I was like, having a bit of fun with this. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can.
I don't know how they do it. We have like about
Yeah.
4 of them out there, like trying to join it all up together.
It's
And
pretty
then
amazing. He was legging it. Yeah.
yeah, and then we had someone waiting at the bottom of the stairs to take you up, and yeah, and then someone at the top as well. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
those stairs are pretty cool at the end. They tickled. I must say my legs were hurting up them. It's like, whew. I've never finished a race up anything like that. Obviously, it's always straight through flat lines. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I see. Yeah. You know how you were talking about crowds before? Like, I've raced a few events. Like UTA was, you literally have to around Katoomba. So,
yes.
and like, say if you hit it in the middle of the day, then you have to yell out to all the tourists as you run through. But I worked out the best way to get rid of them is just to say, "Hi, how are you?" And then they all just turn around, going, "Oh, it must be my mate here." And they turn around, they make room for you, and then you just zoom straight through. But yeah, the further stairs climb at the end is fun. So we thought, there's it's part of trail running to end at the top of those stairs, and they're a bit of it's a bit of a training ground for us. So we in Brisbane, like obviously we go and do stair repeats there. Yeah.
Oh, that's good training for it. Yeah.
Yeah. How to build calves that can go through stairs. Yeah.
the ultimate step ups.
Yeah, exactly right. So so I spoke to you after Coastal High 50. I know that you weren't racing that. You said that you just competed in Europe. Where did you just come back from? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Jack and I went over there. He's from England.
Yeah.
So there's been quite a gap, obviously, with the COVID span that he wasn't able to get back home. So went over there, met his family first time, which was lovely. And then obviously we can't travel without putting races into it or training. And
you got to write it off.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously triathlon, getting back to Europe's obviously been on the cards after COVID, and it's just been that sort of touch and go when to go. So it's really nice to get back. And I raced in London, Challenge London, and then we both did the trail race out at the Golden Trail Series for Jack. He did the big marathon up there, so Scarfell Pike. So it's the highest peak in England. So that was a really great experience, and I did the half on that one, obviously coming off a bit of triathlon and tired legs. And Jack he was top 10 in that, and then actually think it might have got bumped back to 11 because someone started late.
You hate that.
Yeah, he really enjoyed it, and had a really good race there, and off a lot of training and climbing. And then I won the half there.
I know, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was like, I think obviously coming from the BTU and just understanding what I was sort of in for a little bit was really, really good. So I really was keen to sort of do my marathon debut and run Scarfell Pike. But I chose not to. But yeah, it was definitely in the discussion in the training week with Jack and I.
Yeah.
As we climbed, I got to climb it though still and do the whole course with him because he did the course recap on the Tuesday, and I was like, I think that's me done. I was like, that's a lot of climbing.
But like to place second, and it would have been a damn competitive. I mean, no, sorry, to place first. Is that right? First, in a damn competitive field. Like those girls over in England would not be giving that up easily. Like they are amongst the best runners in the world. Like they don't. So that's pretty damn impressive, Courtney.
Yeah, it was a good half. So yeah, it was the lower one of the Golden Trail Series. So the half. So but that's what we do. We're always honest with ourselves what the race was versus what's going on out there, and that's what helps improve us as well. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was very happy, and it was definitely racing the experience and wanting to do more, and is definitely on the cards. So
awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So over your career, and you've gone from track to tri to now trails, the T's, and then have you had any injuries? And what have you learned about each injury?
Yeah, so touch wood, I've been pretty lucky not to have a struggle of a long-term injury.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there, because if you jump on any of Courtney's photos or videos, she has perfect running form and technique. So I'm not surprised that she doesn't have any injuries. Like, seriously, have a look at any of her photos. That's how you should run. Like, there must have been a little hamstring or a little calf or an Achilles. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I was lucky. I was taught pretty well that injury prevention and injury maintenance and actually running on trails, not concrete, is a prevention, changing your shoes over when they're, the wear and tear. So I guess through that, and then obviously being able to coach it and teach it, I was constantly reinforcing it and became second nature to me as well, for me. I've definitely had niggles, and when I get niggles, I just pull myself up pretty quickly and get onto it pretty quickly. And a lot of the time it's just releasing that tightness with the overload when you step up the training. And when we're, and then we start strengthening to strengthen things, or we start running up more hills. Whilst we're strengthening, we also have to be releasing and getting that mobility back. So I really learnt that one doesn't go without the other. I'm a big believer that soreness can be a really healthy thing, and I love teaching that, because there can be a really good amount of pain that people can feel, and pain's not probably even the right word, is it? It's soreness. It's that I've really had a good workout today. I've really had a good run. And then there's the element of soreness and pain, like if it's sharper or unusual and it's hanging around, that's when I really like to teach. And I've also implemented week to week or day to day with my training that it's take note of it and don't push through that sort of pain. And it's hard too, because if you've got a session to complete and a goal to succeed at, we want to keep pushing, don't we? But recovery and rest is something I'm very big on. So
are you a stretcher, a hot bath person, or ice, or all three, or how do you work your recovery?
Yeah, so I love magnesium baths for recovery. Yeah.
I used to say to my clients, if you have 3 a week, you don't need a physiotherapist.
Yeah. It's look, I guess the biggest thing is with these things, so like magnesium baths, ice bathing, rolling, like your roller, the massage guns. The biggest thing is just having your little routine, what works for you, and obviously that will change depending on your training block. And the biggest thing is the prevention. So implementing these things before the physio needs to be visited. Obviously there's a time and a place for physios, as there is doctors and all these areas, but we can put prevention measures in place because the muscles tighten up. We can have a great 4 weeks training, and then the muscles and the injuries will hold us back. So I implement that in my training regime and my coaching religiously, because in order to try to prevent that athlete or myself getting 4 to 6 weeks down the track, and then there's an injury in that goal, the disheartening of the goal, it can't be achieved, because ultimately it's about getting to the finish line, in the best shape possible, turning up and then getting to the finish line. And a lot of the rest of it out there can be luck, or, if the body's going to turn up. So, yeah, I take all that pretty seriously, but definitely I've had some bad bike crashes. So things like that, broken collarbones and a few things like that have happened. But I've been pretty lucky for that, and I tend to, from this point, want to do a bit more work on the trainer, station trainer, than the roads, because or the trail bike, the gravel bike. So run on the gravel and the trails, and then get on the gravel bike, because the roads have just gotten so busy. And I think you get a bit wiser too as you get older.
Life gets
a bit more precious.
Yeah, exactly. You go, this is high risk, this is low risk. Which one should I do? Yeah.
And then you get responsibilities, a dog, a partner, and you're like, oh, I've got these things to consider now. So that's a nice transition though, and it's important. And there's always an alternative for a training regime if there's that fear around riding or running, you know.
Oh, absolutely. But if you compare like a road bike compared to like, say, a cyclocross bike or a gravel or like a mountain bike, like trying to stay, you know, totally, you cannot get out of your seat on a cyclocross bike climbing a hill. Otherwise, you know, you're no longer, you know, you got to stay there. You can't stop. Otherwise you're stuck. So the amount of core and balance, extra balance that you need from a gravel bike compared to a road is much greater.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just slowly transitioning if you're doing those new things too, because obviously then you're switching the core on more, you know, and those muscles are maybe weakened and not, you know, switched on. So then new soreness comes. So that's where the structuring of where you change things is really important and not all at once. So so yeah, and that's I do find a lot of people and even myself experience a lot of soreness from that swapping and changing. And sometimes it can be really, it's okay, it's normal. And other times you just got to be careful. So it's like, oh, I just jumped on this bike and then that one, and you know, changed these running shoes, and it's like, that's awesome. But you know, oh, I'm sore here, or I've got this. There's so many. Unfortunately, the body has to adapt to that change.
I used to look at it like a Formula One driver setup. Do you get what I mean? So if you just change something, you know, like your mill drop, or, you know, you change, you know, if like I've got Achilles tendonitis kind of coming back now, and I know that means I need a new pair of shoes. Like, do you get what I mean? Like these little things just start popping up. Like, Shona, you need new shoes. You know, if you just change a little thing, it can make a big difference. Even like if you switch, like you might be one brand of shoe, but maybe it's just the slightly different cut of that shoe, and then you might end up with a calf injury. And I remember once, like we, you know, team, we all had a calf injury at the same time almost, and was like, oh yeah, we're all wearing these shoes, and we realized they're all too narrow for our feet. It's incredible how these little changes make a big impact.
Yes, that's spot on. Yeah, spot on. The little changes can, and it's just being aware of that, you know, the awareness. So yeah, and it's just, and a lot of like, just, it's such a great area for people to gain more information on what you said there, because, you know, it's, you buy a shoe not understanding that next step, you know. So yeah, it's good. And like you said before, you learn to know your body, you get to know your body, and a lot of the time these things will happen, but it's about how we overcome that and then learn and be aware of that next time it comes around. And, you know, I used to say to people when I worked for Nike for a while, and the shoe store when I was studying and racing a lot, and I used to say to people, you know, it's like, oh, $200, I can't afford a new pair of shoes.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I said, well, it's, you know, do you service your car? You know, it's the same sort of, you've just really got to look after your feet.
Otherwise you're definitely in a physiotherapist's office spending that amount of money anyway, and you're still injured, and then you can't afford the new shoes, so you may as well go out, get the new shoes or get 3 new pairs.
Yes, exactly.
Rotate them. Yeah,
it'd be nice to have a physio appointment, wouldn't it, and be strengthening whilst you're doing your homework, releasing, and not feeling like when things go wrong that there's suddenly this huge output of money you need to spend. Because that then causes more financial stress as well. So it's about a healthy, like I really believe in creating a healthy process for your training with that, by including the recovery and prevention and
So when we talk about the process, obviously nutrition is huge. Like I used to love, I don't want to push hammer too much, but like those are bloody amazing, because I know that they also help. I used to take like
the fizz tablets.
I just take the caps. I used to take 2 at night before I went to bed, so then I knew.
Oh, the electrolyte tablets.
So then in the morning I knew that I'd be okay when I wake up, and I've replenished myself for the next day. There's enough magnesium there. Do you have like a trick where you go, okay, oh, hang on, wait a minute, I'm starting to feel really sore. What am I missing in my diet? Is there something that you can like that you can almost put like your finger on going, oh, I haven't been doing this?
Yeah, definitely Hammer recovery protein powder.
Don't push Hammer too much. We're both ex-Hammer athletes, but there's a point where you go, hang on, wait a minute. Like, yeah, there's something missing here. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the time I found I've upped the training, or even you to up the training, or you've been recovering from an injury or whatever it may be, and the protein intake is quite low. So I'm a big believer in when like supplement. I believe we can get a lot of everything we need out of our food, but supplementing can be really important at certain points and times, and it's definitely the recovery protein with the glutamine and and the higher carbs too. For me, after training, because I'm feeding the mind back and the body, I've lost a lot of calories, and trying to keep the weight on is what I try to focus on, and not getting just accepting and that I've just lost a lot of calories during that session. And I really notice when I'm not on that extra source of supplementing. So I really, really appreciate having access to that, because it helps me stay at bay. Like I'm not too many lows. And then other people, it may be they're trying to lose weight or get race ready, so they may just look at the higher protein intake of a supplement. So each individual is different in what they need and when I feel they should use it, but definitely recovery protein as an endurance athlete, or trying to get fit and you've suddenly increased your training, having that as a supplement I feel is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like people also forget that you actually need carbs, or you need energy to build the muscle. Otherwise you won't get stronger without looking after yourself. And there's that magic window, right? So how quickly are you like, get your recovery powder in? Like what? An hour afterwards? What do you do, Courtney? I know you know the answer.
So there's a lot of research out there now, 30-minute, that window of 30 minutes. And again, I really say having it is better than not having it. So if you come home and you were rushed and you didn't get to pack it and you weren't home after your session, having it and knowing that dinner's within still another 30 to 45 minutes away minimum, definitely having it the minute you get home. But I really like to have it in that 15-minute window straight after training. The sooner the better I feel, provided you're going to stomach it, and then give it time. So and if I don't have it handy, banana, so that replacing those glycogen stores as well. I'll have cloudy apple juice, things like that are going straight to my stores to replace them. And that's then rolling over, obviously, that recovery to the next day, better sleep, where magnesium comes into it, and the electrolyte tablets that you mentioned before, 2 of them a night. You probably most likely in this heat as it's warming up here in Australia, and in Queensland, it's very, very warm, and going to bed dehydrated and then rolling into the next session in the morning, get to work or during the day. And, a big one is headaches. And often that'll be dehydration, but also people like, I've drunk lots of water. And it's like, well, there was no electrolytes in there. That's where the body needs electrolytes to function, as well as carbs. So I do really love the Hammer range that I am lucky enough to get to use. And I feel that I was going through shopping before. Sometimes we just can't get enough food in. So being able to drink it as well after a really hard session, I find that I can stomach it.
Yeah.
So, and everyone put it with different things. Like I love full cream cow's milk or almond milk, or, I tend to get pretty used to just, I need to have it before I say, oh, what do I enjoy the most? So yeah, and Jack's got pretty used to it now. I'm like, get this in. Time.
So your everyday diet, do you follow something like special? Like, are you like gluten-free, vegan, blah, 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 or can you stomach everything?
Yeah, so been pretty lucky. Most of my life so far that I've been able to stomach everything. I love food. I eat everything. I've always been really, I grew up on a 1,000-acre organic fruit farm growing up. So I was very lucky to learn about organic produce and veggie gardens. And so I've got that in me, and I love it. Like, I love that side of healthy eating. So I do eat very healthy. And I really give myself a break, and I'll have pizzas or a balanced diet at times as well. The occasional soft drink whilst it might be high in sugar, sometimes that need to quench your thirst, or, is lovely. Love a little. So I'm not,
especially at the end of an event, right? Oh,
absolutely. You've got to be human. And you've got to be human, and I'm a big believer that it's a sustainable diet as well. I enjoy my food and really do focus and buckle down in big training blocks, so to ensure there's enough food there going in, which is something I've been working on a lot more, because you can get so busy and distracted next, and you're like, wow, I didn't eat for 2 hours, even if you're not hungry, and often you don't feel hungry in the heat. So it's just a matter of just really being accountable to that. And
exercise is actually a appetite suppressant as well. So, if you do enough of it, you're actually not very hungry until it's not right, unless you're fat burning. So that, there is times where you just really don't eat. But I've got to ask you, we're almost out of time. But I want to ask, what are you doing next year? Like, I know we've kind of locked you in for BTU, and you're going to be coming along to our training camps as one of our coaches, which is really exciting. So if you want to come to our training camps, you can definitely get up close and personal with Courtney and pick her brains. But what are you doing racing next year? Have you planned it all out yet, or are you still going, I don't know, it depends on what's coming in?
Yeah, so I'm hoping for a really big season, mixture of trail running and triathlon. I haven't put any plans into place yet, so I'm just going to a pretty big base that'll build November and December training block, with just trying to really stay home and focus on that, whilst I'm finishing off some further studies as well and working on my business. And Jack and I just launched a new business with our running coaching as well.
Very cool.
So,
what's the business called? Give it a plug.
It's Gilly's Coaching and Wellness. So my wellness work and my coaching I do will branch out a bit more, and I'll bring him on in the near future with some male running coaching, because I often get a lot of inquiries with that. So I really think that working together on that will be fantastic, and we've got some long-term goals with that as well. So I've been doing a bit of work on that as well, and so next year plan is to go back to Europe, so later on in the year, but I'll be in Australia doing the Australian season, and racing in Australia. So
awesome.
I will keep you tuned on the calendar and what it looks like, and I'll definitely be at BTU again.
Oh, look, we can't wait to connect with you guys at the training camps, and we'd love to have Jack along too. Like, seriously, it'll be really cool, because we have lots of amazing female coaches, but there is a huge need for more male coaches out there. So we'd love to have him along. Yeah,
and that male to male understanding and having the option for us. So obviously, with my health and wellness coaching and fitness and running, I'm going quite women specific with that in the new year. And obviously when it comes to males, there's a big calling out there for that. And I've worked with a lot, and there's a big opening, and, with my time with racing as well, I think, and Jack wanting to come over to a little bit of coaching in the new year. And when the time's right, it's a good time to start to chip away at that. So we're both, he's Gill and I'm Gilfillan. That's where Gilly's
I know. I already, don't worry. I was all over it. I know.
My nickname's Gilly.
I was onto it.
Yeah.
Well, thank
that's
you
good.
so much. I'm super excited. I am blown away at at your past results is fantastic. But your current results are really promising. Like you're 34, am I right? Is that right? 34?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
34 in September, so it's a nice age to,
Yeah, I was
the
in
endurance
my
sport.
prime. Yeah, I was in my prime at 34 as well. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what these next few years bring for you. I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the racing and then the work balance as well, and helping others, but having that good balance, and then focusing a bit more on recovery as well. So yeah, thank you.
It's a bit cheeky, right? As we get older, we can go longer. We don't have to be so quick anymore. But who knows? Maybe when you're a little bit later, you'll be in the hundreds. But I think you're just so quick that 30K, the marathon distance, is just so you. And there's such you've got such a cool group of women doing that distance as well, which is so promising. Like internationally, as well as locally.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's incredible out there, and the way it's growing as well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see you wearing the green and gold for trail running for Australia, representing us, and then maybe helping us out for 2032 as a coach. Who knows? For Brisbane, so we want trail running Brisbane here at the Olympics. Absolutely. Yeah.
I actually have a quite goal wanting to run the marathon at the Olympics in that year.
Cool.
So maybe it might be the trail. I didn't realize that. That's quite swayed me already.
Well, I'll let you go. And it's
thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely to talk to you.